So how will the Obama Presidential Center compare with those of other former presidents?
So joining us now is Suzanne Chod, professor of political science at North Central College. Nice to see you again, Suzanne.
Nice to see you both as well.
What will this library in Chicago, in this location, mean for his legacy?
You know, it's one of the things that I was really impressed with when reading about this and hearing the president speak today. I would say actually two things. One is that, normally when we think about a presidential legacy, political scientists and pundits, we measure it by policy. We measure it by how many Supreme Court justices or federal judges a president has appointed. But really what President Obama is trying to build with his legacy, and in partnership with First Lady Michelle Obama, is building future generations of leaders. He sees his legacy, and this Obama Presidential Center is the focal point of that, is a place of gathering, of activism, of civic participation, a way to build social capital, to feel connected, and to take all of that and move on and build a better country, one that President Obama tried to build, one that he wants these future leaders to build. And he said today, what better legacy for him and the former First Lady? And I think that that's what the Presidential Center is attempting to do, and we'll see if that's what happens.
And that mission in and of itself differentiates it from the presidential libraries of his predecessors, does it not?
Absolutely. So this is the first non-library presidential library, which came with some controversy. Historians and archivists are speculating whether this end of a traditional presidential library could inhibit the ability to study presidents, the digitizing of all of former President Obama's papers. While more publicly accessible, it could be an issue for those who do primary work in the archives. And the other thing that I would say that's different is that it's being managed by the Obama Foundation as opposed to the National Archives as other presidential libraries have. So those departures are significant. And I think former President Obama feels that he wouldn't be able to do what he wants with this center in this city in this way if he did it the traditional route. And so all of that make this very different than previous libraries.
And Suzanne, this does not come, of course, without controversy. The Protect Our Parks are upset about the destruction of the mature trees over there and the Women's Garden. And then you've got the Community Benefits Agreement Coalition talking about we need affordable housing. This is going to make the housing rates go up.
Yeah. Yes. And in fact, the city, from what I understand, addressed that just this month with legislation that would prohibit there being an increase in rent and mortgage rates because of this building up in this area. And, as you said, and as was reported, there was so much controversy over the years about taking away the green space, putting it in the neighborhood, potentially displacing those in the neighborhood. And what former President Obama has said and former First Lady Michelle Obama has said is this is not an attempt to displace. This is an attempt to bring in, to reinvest in a place that was so integral to President Obama becoming the president he was, the man that he is. And so the hope is that what they promised to fulfill is what actually happens, and any of that controversy or frustration over potential issues will go away.
And things will happen in 2025. Thank you so much. Political science professor Suzanne Chod, always lovely to see you. Be safe, be well.
You as well. Take good care to you both.
Thank you.